Well, it's a big day for Adrian Gore and the Discovery Group. Financial results released today. They look pretty good when you look at the normalized earnings business, but there's so much. It's such a big company now and so involved around the world that in the next 15 minutes, we're going to try and get a really good inside track on where it's going to. The numbers for the year to end June just released. We'll be finding out a little bit about that, but mainly looking forward. Adrian, I guess the thing that came to me looking through the results and would be to most people is you've now resumed dividends, so it would appear as though the COVID story is now behind you.
Yes. I think there was a number of issues, just the kind of in the COVID, it becoming endemic, but I think maybe more important, just the environment being fairly risky and unknown at the time, and just getting our new initiatives to a stage of kind of focus and clarity. So there were a bunch of issues, and we actually didn't feel strongly about not restarting it. The first time we said we didn't, we got quite a bad feedback from the market. But in fact, the second time, the interims or the final, the market was quite understanding. So we've been pretty comfortable just starting at the right time. It's not a dramatically big event, quite frankly. It was inevitable.
When we look at the normalized earnings, though, they've now doubled from the low of the worst of the COVID time. So I guess that is, well, it's clear that it was a big impact. Have you quantified yet what the pandemic cost Discovery?
Well, we paid, I should clarify the numbers, it's a few years off, but I mean, you look at the actual mortality claims, there were about 12 billion, I think, gross that we paid. So, that's a huge amount. Obviously that was structured in careful ways. We had reinsurers. There's a lot of structures to make sure that was sustainable, but it's very, very substantial. But at the same time, you've got to be careful here, because I think what COVID did is it made health and life cover more relevant. So lapsation had gone down. So these things are not clear cut, but the cost was, beside the human life, which is terrible, it was dramatic. I mean, you can see how quickly I think we've recovered. The life company already has exceeded its liquidity targets. So all those liquidity buffers are now refilled. So they've done good work to make sure that we are completely back to where we should be pre-COVID. So it was a dramatic event. I was saying this morning that this is really complex times. They really are. But I think less so than COVID. There was you'll recall there was section unknown about collectively would we survive this thing. I don't just mean financially. Am I right? It was a very, very unsettling time. I don't think what we're going through now is of the same level of, there's some real black swans out there, nuclear, all kinds of geopolitical risks and country risks. But I feel as a life and health insurer, COVID was a bigger uncertainty. It turned out to be less so, but that it was tremendous.
Yeah, geopolitics is certainly coming front and center now. From your perspective, how big a foreign shareholder base do you have?
It's quite substantial. I should know this, but of kind of the free float, I think more than 50% is offshore.
So I presume a lot of the talking that you have with foreign investors, although South Africa is not all, by any means, Discovery Group, would be telling them about South Africa and perhaps selling South Africa, which can't be that easy right now.
No, it's not. It's not. And I think there's a narrative issue. Although often I find the foreigners are actually more hopeful than our locals, often. I find that's an interesting paradox. But there's some self-selection. These shareholders have really made a view that there's potential. That's why they're investors. You know what I'm saying to you? So you're not selling to the uninitiated to an extent. And often I think the feedback from our shareholders often is, you've got incredible IP. How do you scale it quicker globally? That tends to be the challenge. It's less so of, the South African story, so to speak. I mean, your point is right, but I think that our challenge is, and I think reality, that is the case. How do we globalize? The model is so applicable, so powerful. We need to scale up quick. Although I'm pleased with the growth, I think we need to do more quicker, frankly.
But the Vitality Group, the global group, is certainly starting to hit its straps now.
It is, but it's still not material enough, number one. Number two, I don't mean this in any patronizing way. What our partners are doing with it is incredible. Shane data this morning about Sumitomo Life and John Hancock. These are great companies. They're really of exceptional scale and quality, but they've done so well with the model, and that's don't begrudge them. Quite the opposite. We're very, very extremely excited and grateful for that. But we need to get more scale from the global impact of that. Not from them, I'm saying, but just globally, we need to do more with it. So there's there's work being done to make sure we can. I was trying to allude to some of the work on the actual model itself, the ability to demonstrate change, the ability to modularize things. So then the deals we're trying to do now, we can actually demonstrate value and share in that value properly. So there's a lot that we're doing, but I think we're all pleased with where we got to, but I think much more needs to be done. I think that's really probably the challenge going forward, how you achieve that.
It's been a heck of a journey if you go back to when you invested initially in the United States and had that big write-off, at which stage it would have made many other people gun shy. It just got you on a different path.
Yeah, that's interesting. You and I have spoken about this for years. It's interesting. I mean, on one hand, it was an incredibly low moment, and I kind of concede that. But on the other hand, I think without that learning, I wouldn't be here, and we wouldn't be here. These are the kind of things that I'm saying to you, the kind of the madness to go into the US market, start a health insurer. We were a tiny little company here. Then we were, with limited capital. And in fact, we did better than I thought we'd do if you actually look at it. So it's a funny thing. I look back at it with some sense of fondness. I know it sounds bizarre. You might think it's idiotic, but it actually is interesting. These are the kind of things in a journey that build resilience,
Life is a journey, and your UK journey is now very interesting to see how the life insurance business, Vitality in the UK is really starting to expand quite well, whereas the healthcare business slightly down in the past year. Is there anything to read into that?
No, I think actually the healthcare business had an interesting dynamic. I mean, 2 years ago, what happened during COVID is while life claims really climbed, health claims didn't because people couldn't use the healthcare system. So you had this reduction in claim levels and therefore what appeared to be super profits. We were pretty clear that those claims are going to come back for sure, and we reserved that. Now, it's a short-term business. You can reserve it in unearned premium reserve. There's a short-term ability to do that, and we released that over the last 2 years. In fact, that uplift 2 years ago was partly an effect of that. In this period, that's come through a bit, but more of it is about it's really grown quickly. The NHS difficulties has meant more people are demanding private health insurance. So there's a new business strain element. And the other is claims are coming back for sure. Two things. One is post-COVID, now people are claiming. The other is the nature of private medical insurance in the UK has changed. It used to be about, overcoming waiting periods. Now with the NHS, people are buying it for outpatient cover. They're buying it for cancer coverage. So the claim patterns are different. So there's a massive growth spurt we're seeing, and we're growing faster than the market. They built a brilliant company, the team there. But there is a complexity about how claims levels play out. We need to be careful in the underwriting and the pricing and make sure we understand that stuff. So it's actually growing at a rapid rate. It's about how you manage the new business strain and how you manage what is for sure going to be different clinical and claim levels that we have to deal with.
Adrian, even for people who know Discovery, it's a complex business. There's a lot of numbers to process. If a person from Mars, a person who knows nothing about the group, were to ask you in a nutshell what it is that impressed you in the past year, and indeed what it is that you do, how would you answer that?
I actually may make it too complex. These presentations are too long. They're too, I don't know. I mean, maybe there's something to make it simpler. But the truth is, I think you should break it up. I mean, there's the South African piece is a financial conglomerate in a way with the typical product houses, and I would simply say it's an integrated structure on this Vitality shared model. But really, at the end of the day, it's now a bank, it's a life, health insurance, etc. I don't think that should be complex. I think in the UK it's now much simpler. It's a life and health insurance on the same model. Maybe the Vitality Group is a bit of a lumpy set of opportunities in it. We've pulled them together. But I don't know. If I looked at the year past, I think one theme for me has been robustness across the board, which I think is very appealing for us. The other is, I think, the stand-up performance of the bank. I think that is certainly which I think is unusual. There's been a lot of bank startups, as you all know, around the world, digital, neobanks. There's been virtually no success stories. The Discovery Bank is really, for us, performing ahead of expectation, which is unusual for a new business. I think the UK growth, and it's a self-standing business with a brand that is now really well established in the UK. And then I think the other is just the potential in the Vitality Group in working with partners around the world. I mean, I think everything has gone quite well. I don't think there should be any hubris. Every one of these issues has challenge, but I feel that we focus down on getting rid of wasteful areas, of getting stuff that is unfocused out, and we are focused on the stuff we know will grow. So it's been actually quite important. The focus is not yet over. There's a few areas we still are making sure we address cleanly and get the focus right. So we're not through that period, but we really are pushing hard to get the model with and get the growth out of in all of these markets.
Are you starting to consolidate a little? And I ask this because Discovery's always been highly innovative. You pride yourself on, or yourselves, on starting new operations. With the bank, is it such a big bite that you possibly need to slow down elsewhere until you get that into profitability?
No, I actually, it's a great question. I actually don't think so. I think that we went through a time when we became a bit unfocused. Too many things at the same time, but not material. I think the learning is a few big things that really make a difference. So the bank is something, I think it's something, in retrospect, I didn't realize how big it would be. I remember a couple of years ago, it's the only time I think in Discovery's history, I woke up at 3 a.m. I thought, geez, this thing is, will we get it to scale? You know what I mean? I've always had this, call it like it's maybe an irrational kind of entrepreneurs kind of thing. We'll figure it out. We will, you know what I'm saying to you? With the bank, I remember one evening thinking, one in the middle of the night thinking, this thing is big. This is actually a big bet, and it's maybe a healthy thing. But I don't think it's too big to chew. I think actually now it's illustrating the power of scale and focus, quite the opposite. If you're going to do new things, do things with scale. Don't get caught in side operations and small startups. And they take, no matter what you do, I've seen it takes 5 years. The smaller startups. So don't waste time on stuff that is not material. And I think that kind of focus is good. So I think quite the opposite. I think you're right. We've done well starting businesses, but all of them take a lifetime of work. And they all take 5 to 10 years to scale. So it's more around do them, but do a few things that are big. Even in the Vitality Group with our partners, I think what we've seen, there's a few really, we showed some data this morning, Sumitomo and John Hancock. First time allowing us to show actual data. These are massive partners. If we can do more, then we're trying to do more with John Hancock in the US. That's, if we can get that to work, that's substantial. I'm trying to make sure I'm to blame with the team. We get sidetracked on a whole lot of things. We're enthusiastic, I think that lack of discipline we've corrected.
Is that, well, if you were, and you do talk a lot to entrepreneurs, is that one of the themes that you would perhaps from your own learnings that you would share?
Oh, definitely. I think that, look, we've always had that view about acquisitions. This is, from our start. If you're going to do an acquisition, do something that's massive, that is transformative. Don't get caught in absorb, So I've always had that discipline, I think. But I think we were, and rightly so, the model is so applicable to so many things. It's easy to get, and to be true, some of the stuff that we've curtailed showed considerable promise. So, it actually took a discipline to say, listen, this is going to take a long time, a lot of capital, we'll get there, but we can't do that now. And I've always, one of the important, I forget who said it, but the great CEO is the individual who can tell you what not to do. I'm saying to you, that discipline is critical. So, I don't know the answer. These things are not linear. My sense is that one of the lessons I think is do things that really are material. Don't waste time and resource on the marginal. Even if it's got potential, it's going to get you caught.
And the model is the shared value model, which a lot of people say is just talk. But you've lived it.
Well, I think the data is so compelling. Every time I do our results presentation, we sat last night like late, going through, should we tell the market about the model? It's very important. I get overly enthusiastic and, our team says, you've told the same story 10 times, but the only difference is the data coming out is so compelling. So you look at Sumitomo and John Hancock, it is incredible, so I think that we've got to, this is part of monetizing that IP, the ability to demonstrate the effect on mortality, morbidity, embedded values, that you can actually illustrate the economic value of how this plays out and the social value. And I think we can. We're spending a lot now, I alluded to this morning, but a lot on this kind of much more hyper-personalized approach. Each individual has their own pathway, getting change in that regard. That stuff will change things for us. So it is not, I can assure you, it's not just talk. The data is so incredibly compelling. Once you accept that behavior is causal, behavior change is causal, if you accept that, it changes everything. Once you accept that if you can change behavior, you get a difference in outcome. And we're seeing that now. The data, physical activity and other things is so compelling. It would seem so intellectually lazy to think that that's talk. You know what I'm saying? Unless you don't believe that data. So, I think the burden of proof is on us, I guess. So, the challenge is there.
But being the pioneer of this, now looking back, would there have been another way, a better way perhaps, to leverage that invention?
Actually, no, I think with deeper conviction, maybe. our partnerships would have been more demanding of sharing the upside. You know what I'm saying to you? I think quite the opposite. I think it's worked so well, but I think when you're a small South African company and you get a chance to partner some of these great companies, you don't necessarily do the best deal. I don't mean this in any negative way. Our partners have been remarkable. They're generous, they're fantastic, and they've done well. I don't mean to. I'm just saying to you, I think that we could have maybe taken that approach differently. I think we're doing that now. We're working with partners to deepen relationships, etc. So I'm actually not one. I don't know about you. I'm not one to regret everything we've done as being because of good steps in the past. You know, I remember Larry Dippenog, who I think is, as you know, is one of the wisest guys you'll ever meet. He always made the point to me, you know, good decisions come from experience. Experience comes from bad decisions. You know, I mean, that is the, you know, and so I actually don't have any regrets. We've kind of learnt that process. Important.
With all of this that's going on, you still find time to help a little bit with the national challenges here in South Africa. Not always appreciated. There's quite a lot of criticism of big business, and they're saying that Adrian Gore and co. are part of the problem, not part of the solution. How do you respond to that kind of criticism?
Look, I think that criticism is healthy. We need to answer to it. But having said that, I mean, my calculation is there's serious issues of potential failure in the areas we've highlighted: energy, logistics, crime. We know that. I'm not convinced. I think it's a cognitive error to think to let that fail is a better way to the solution. You know what I'm saying to you? I think we're caught in the election noise and, you know, all the stuff, and you know, that may be the case. But I think just ignoring that stuff, getting collective work done on fixing power stations and fixing the railways if we can. Not us. I'm saying collectively, if that can be done, changes sentiment that makes the world safer. I think that when people, and we've seen that the research shows it, there's an amazing paper in The Economist recently, you might have seen it, but just when people are concerned about the future security, they become sectarian, they become withdrawn, they don't like to take surveys, they become more religious, they become more focused on their own groups, and I think that creates polarization that's dangerous in a country like ours. So I think the concept that things can fail and then we'll pick it up and the rationality will hold, I'm not convinced it's that linear. I think there's a safer, I think we should fix it anyway, but I think that if you want positive growth, I think you've got to give people a sense of security about the future. They then become cooperative, they change their views. So I'm giving it's not like, sorry, it's a lumpy answer, but I guess my view is fixing is while we can, number one. Number two, I think that if you want to see positive building, the more people feel secure about the future, the safer it is for us. And I think a country like ours, where there is potential, massive good faith, but it has an easy underbelly that can be inflamed easily. I think that the safer route is fix while we can and forget about the politics. So I think we want to be careful not to get caught in what you say, which is a legitimate issue. We shouldn't be pawns in any political game or be seen to be supporting any one group other than the other. But we've got people in power stations with soldering irons. You know what I mean? These are with cigarettes sticking out of the ear. You know, that's what's happening. If they can get traction with Eskom, you know, in a collaborative way, this will be a fantastic thing. So I think we'll be judged frankly, on the traction we get. That ultimately is what we have to show. If we don't get traction, it's been wasteful.
I really enjoyed what you presented a couple of months ago with Discovery Green, doing your thing to bring in almost like a united force amongst businesses that they could work together on renewable power. What's the reaction been like to that initiative?
It's been incredible. I mean, what we've found is every company is grappling with the same problem we have. They've got carbon targets, and they can't put solar on their roof. It's not like a house. You've got so much power you need, and they don't have the scale necessary to do it. So this idea of kind of almost creating a securitization platform, we are inundated with potential clients. So let me not, there's no hubris here. I think it will take us time. But we've had 30 or 40 big corporates that we're talking to about joining the platform. So it's been quite remarkable. I mean, it's actually it's an interesting story. It's not a core business. And, you could say to the point of focus, I've just told you everything about staying in your lane, etc. This is complete. But in fact, this is not in the same category. This was a team of part of our team that's been looking at the whole problem for us as a group, a smart group of actuaries and other people in the space. And the idea of, we could do this thing if you just back it and we can, with light capital. So it's actually an interesting, I wouldn't call it AWS and Amazon where you've got like kind of a completely parallel, but it has a feeling of that, of smart guys giving you a bit of a bit of rope to do something, and it has incredible potential. So let's see where it gets to. The response has been tremendous.
Adrian Gore is the Chief Executive of Discovery Group, and I'm Alec Hogg from biznews.com.